is, like magic, the science of manipulating symbols, words or images, to achieve changes in consciousness. The very language of magic seems to be talking as much about writing or art as it is about supernatural events. A grimoire, for example, the Book of Spells, is simply a fancy way of saying grammar. Indeed, to cast a spell is simply to spell, to manipulate words, to change people's consciousness. And I believe that this is why an artist or writer is the closest thing in the contemporary world that you are likely to see to a shaman.
When you hear these talismanic words like control, security, stronger America, strength, realize that they're talismanic words that are being used against you. They're seduction words to try and get you to accept this because you don't have that. Well, you've been raped of that. The people who are selling you one story here have actually taken away the very things that you needed that were in your psyche to begin with.
I am continuing and I am increasing the search for every possible path to peace.
We maintain our strength in order to deter and defend against aggression, to preserve freedom and peace.
No one, friend or foe, should doubt our desire for peace.
The United States wants peace.
We seek peace. We strive for peace.
I pledged in my campaign for the presidency to end the war in a way that we could win the peace.
I respect your idealism. I share your concern for peace. I want peace as much as you do.
We cannot wait for the final proof, the smoking gun that could come in the form of a mushroom cloud. Saddam Hussein recently sought significant quantities of uranium from Africa.
There is no doubt that Saddam Hussein now has weapons of mass destruction.
Weapons of mass destruction.
Botulinum, VX, sarin, nerve agent.
Iraq and Al-Qaeda.
Iraq and Al-Qaeda. Terrorism. Cyber attacks.
Nuclear program. Biological weapons.
Cruise missiles. Ballistic missiles.
Chemical and biological weapons.
Iraq has weapons of mass destruction.
President Bush has said Iraq has weapons of mass destruction. Tony Blair has said Iraq has weapons of mass destruction. Donald Rumsfeld has said Iraq has weapons of mass destruction. Richard Butler has said they do. The United Nations has said they do. The experts have said they do. Iraq says they don't. You can choose who you want to believe.
The sources that have deceived us so constantly don't deserve our trust. And to the extent that we give them our trust, we set ourselves up to be scammed again and again.
There are reports that there is no evidence of a direct link between Baghdad and some of these terrorist organizations.
There are known knowns. There are things we know we know. We also know there are known unknowns. That is to say, we know there are some things we do not know. But there are also unknown unknowns. The ones we don't know, we don't know.
I will build new partnerships to defeat the threats of the 21st century. Terrorism and nuclear proliferation, poverty and genocide, climate change and disease. And I will restore our moral standing so that America is once again that last best hope for all who are called to the cause of freedom, who long for lives of peace, and who yearn for a better future.
And this is used endlessly in the media by the drip feed method of just constantly downloading the same idiotic memes that you consciously would think you resist. But if they're repeated for the 10, 20 years and you've been growing up, before you know it, you're a parrot of all of that. You don't even realize it was implanted. That's the whole point. You're not meant to realize that your thinking is not your own. That's the smokescreen I was talking about. You're not meant to know that you're under hypnotism. You're meant to think you're perfectly normal. So they're going to sell you the most irrational, most satanic, most vile, pornographic lies but they're going to sell it in a capsule that makes you think that you're perfectly spiritual, perfectly adjusted, totally normal. As this continues, as this process continues, the division between the outsider who's really sane and the unsane gets wider and wider and wider. What are people complaining about? That they can't believe the world they're walking around in. Sane people are going, I can't handle it, I can't work, it's terrible, the people are idiots. Yeah, but that didn't happen last year, that didn't happen 2 months ago. You are seeing the symptom, not the cause. You're seeing the symptom of an immensely long, phenomenally detailed and interesting and complex. What was Soviet Russia? You can sum up the whole gig of communist Russia in one sentence. Experiment. Social experimentation. Meaning you split hairs as to whether it was a Darwinian experimentation or an Orwellian blah blah blah. It's an experiment in how to control human beings who very easily were controlled. Oh my goodness, 33 people are shot dead. Everybody is just tripping over themselves with awe and amazement and anger and frustration. Let me see, what else is going on in the world right now? What else has been going on since 2001? Let me see, what's happening in Iraq or Iran right now? Can we ask a question about that? What was going on during the previous George Bush? Was there a thing called Desert Storm in which millions of people were killed? Children were wiped out, incinerated? In Panama, were people not burned to death with lasers and incinerated in their own cars? Completely innocent people. Then we have Grenada before that. Grenada. Then you have, where do we stop? How many wars do we need? But your children die. Of course it's horrible. But can we have some context here? Can we have some sanity here? That just because your little pathetic, mediocre lifestyle has now been shaken up by something you don't understand, that's the only violence you think it exists in this world? Somebody has to be wielding, a 38 on your own street, in your own backyard, before you realize that there's such a thing as violence in the world? I'm here to tell you that all of that kind of violence, including the genocide, including the mega death, chew on this, that all of that, all through history, is a tiny aspect of the violence that exists in the world. That's the stuff you can see with your five senses. But as any competent psychologist will tell you, that is a very small, sadly, that is a symptom. That's what that is. That's an outpouring and outletting, a playing out in the world. Obviously helped and assisted by those who would like to have chaos rule in the world. Yes. But where is its roots? You're going to keep studying the, leaf? You're going to keep studying the bloom and not ask where the root is? Or we'll have a wonderful society tomorrow where they'll be able to prune that really easily. And we won't have any of that violence because, in fact, we'll have a new world order. The chaos out of control. Everything's in chaos. People killing themselves. And we have a perfect structure now that will always deal with that. But will the root be ever looked at? If the root is not looked at, I don't care what kind of order or system is involved in the world of man that, prunes that or, keeps that nicely culled or caged or whatever. I happen to know that the root is twofold. The root of all of this mayhem, chaos, and destruction and immorality is actually a twofold root. The one root is in man's inability to look at his dark emotions, which is a psychological look at this. And the other root is in the fact that there is an agency working in the world to engender that. Now, luckily in the conspiracy movement today, what's jokingly called the conspiracy movement, or I prefer to call it the alternative research community, we have now authors and people from all walks of life who are investigating that fact, that second root. That we think that this is not by chance. We don't really think that man is that immoral. We don't really think that man of his own nature will run around, fighting wars and building napalm bombs and all that. So maybe there's something else going on. Finally, the human race is waking up to the fact that yes, that's right. Somebody has kickstarted this and maintains it through the perpetuation of people's false allegiances and all the rest of it. And I'm very happy and glad to see that taking place, this removing of the lid, which is astrologically connected to Pluto, the planet Pluto, or the archetype Pluto, or the New Age. The real truth about the New Age is that the revelations that arise, because man gets sharper in his critical ability and starts to look beneath the surface of reality. That's great. What I'd really like to see, though, and what I'm hoping to very much help pioneer in this era, is more attention on the first route as well, which is that human beings need to examine their own private consciousness to understand some of the dynamics of the full psyche, not just the ego and not just the programmed brain self, because the brain is a machine programmed by the world. But then you also come in with a thing called the mind, which has been programmed over millennia or generations. People need to know about the tripartite division or schemata of the ego, of the brain, of consciousness, from the Freudian point of view. They should also find out about the quaternity schemata of Jung. It was a little bit similar to Freud, but a little bit different. These people have, understood the dynamics, the anatomy of something that you can't see, consciousness. People know about the body. You got 2 arms, you got 2 legs, you got 1 head. Okay, well then what is the anatomy of your consciousness? Anybody ever thought about that? Well, yes, somebody did. It's called Sigmund Freud. People need to pick up his books, get on the web, and find out what is the anatomy of your consciousness. What is thinking? How do you think? What is thinking? How does that happen? What is thought? Who's thinking about thought? Because if you don't ask these questions, you're not going to have too much of an understanding of what might be spirit or all of that. You're looking for the spiritual, but if you don't know what you are, how can you ever find out the other? So the real journey now begins. All of these traumas and tragedies are in a way a catalyst. Sad but true that man has to learn through tragedy, but then, hey, wait a minute, even the Greeks knew that as far back as you go, if man is left without tragedy, he'll just sit on his ass and do nothing all day long. He will sun himself and he will take care of his narcissistic, personal, sensationalistic needs, and nothing of any other thing will cross his mind ever. So unfortunately, the universe, nature, whatever you want to call it, fate, has to sort of deliver man what we would call tragedy, and therefore it wakes him up as a catalyst to him looking at deeper things. This is very, very necessary. And one of those areas now is that he needs to really continue the investigation of his own thinking, his own consciousness, and realize that the secrets, that's where the secrets lie.
One thing is sure, a great change of our psychological attitude is imminent. That is certain.
Why?
Because we need more. We need more psychology. We need more understanding of human nature, because the only real danger that exists is man himself. He is the great danger, and we are pitifully unaware of it. We know nothing of man, far too little. His psyche should be studied, because we are the origin of all coming evil.
All right, welcome to the TylerBlawyer.com live stream show. Today is Sunday, November 29th, and we're just going to be doing a quick show today. That intro actually was not completely planned. I just thought that would fit good there while I was fiddling with some things over here, getting things ready for the stream. And today we're going to be just covering a few updates and then a little brief review of the Grand Theft World podcast, and also going into a preview of that and then a little summary of what we might be talking about tonight live on the Grand Theft World podcast. And this is, again, TylerBlawyer.com live streaming live at TylerBlawyer.com/live. Now, a few other places that I've recently been able to integrate live streaming to announce here would be Twitch. So I'm live streaming here on Twitch, you can see. That's just to kind of have a more long-term plan for live streaming platform, and this is what's embedded actually over at TylerBlawyer.com/live. You can see the Twitch thing there. Obviously we're getting a screen within a screen because of what I'm showing you here, but that's fine. And then another place that I'm streaming live to is DLive. So we have that integrated, streaming over there on DLive. And then the last one that I integrated last night was Float. I've been hearing a lot of good things about Float, and I added that into the stream. So these are things I'm testing for other things that I do for live streaming as well. But I wanted to let you know that you can find that, we'll have these links available on tylerbloyer.com as well. The other place that you can find my work as of more recently would be Library. So I've been uploading my work to Library. I'm not quite all the way caught up, still a few months behind, but I'll have basically all the way back to The Creature of Control here available, and then as you can see, I'm missing quite a bit of the more recent stuff. So besides that, I've also got the audio version of the podcast of my show basically up everywhere. So if I go, let's say, look at like this last live stream, this is something else I integrated recently, is the audio embed, which was, I've always had an embed there for audio, but you can more easily download that. And then I have a few syndicated platforms up. I'm going to add more, and then RSS, which has always been there, but the audio version, might reach a different audience. It gives people the ability to archive, download the episode on their phone, and it, again, just like a different avenue that I've been working with on other projects as well to get the work out for Grand Theft World in particular. So while I was doing that, I figured let's, hook this stuff up the right way and get it syndicated out. Now, I'm not on every platform that you can syndicate out on, but for now, one of the reasons why that you got to be careful out there is I recently got a strike from YouTube for streaming the Grand Theft World podcast to my channel. I was basically doing it as a test and to see that everything was going to work good when streaming to YouTube. And here, I'll just read this to you really quick. It says, "Dear Tyler Bloyer, our team has reviewed your content, and unfortunately, we think it violates our medical misinformation policy. We've removed the following content from YouTube: Grand Theft World Podcast Episode 3. We know that this might be disappointing, but it's important to us that YouTube is a safe place for all. If content breaks our rules, we remove it. If you think we've made a mistake, you can appeal, and we'll take another look. Keep reading for more details. How your content violated the policy. YouTube doesn't allow content that explicitly disputes the efficacy of the local health authorities or World Health Organization guidance on social distancing and self-isolation that may lead people to act against that guidance." And then you can click to learn more. Let's see what that is. So, COVID-19 medical misinformation policy. I probably won't read this all right now, but I think maybe I'll put this in the show notes. We'll go ahead and grab that. But, I mean, there's things in here like if you're posting content that encourages the use of prayer or ritual in place of medical treatment, that's not allowed. Content that claims that vaccines or coronavirus is available or that there is a guaranteed cure. Claims about COVID-19 vaccinations that contradict expert consensus from local health authorities or the WHO. Content that claims that other currently available medicine prevents you from getting the coronavirus. So, lots of stuff in here. Denial that COVID-19 exists is not allowed. Claims that people who do not have not died from COVID-19. Claims that I don't believe we did any of that in the show. If you go watch it, I mean, we even said in the beginning that we're not calling it a hoax, and we just wanted to cover more information. And then we covered all the gain of function, a lot of different gain of function research and Fauci's information on that, and him speaking and other scientists speaking about that. They can claim that that's what we did, but it's really kind of broad, and they don't really get exact to what you did. So my channel now has one strike. You won't be able to do things like upload, post, or live stream for 1 week. A second strike will prevent you from publishing content for 2 weeks. 3 strikes in the same 90-day period will result in your channel permanently being removed from YouTube. Blah, blah, blah. I could appeal it. I'm probably not going to, but that's the status of the TylerBloyer.com YouTube channel at the moment. So right now I'm streaming out on my Within the Stones, an old channel I created back in the day for the Creature of Control podcast. And there's really no followers on there. I'm kind of just doing it to make sure that Restream, what I use, and I'm not promoting it here, had a Black Friday special, so I upgraded. And now I'm able to get the custom RTMP to float, and then I can use like 2 custom destinations. I can live stream to End Slavery on Facebook versus my personal page. So End Slavery is one of the pages that I manage over on Facebook. And unfortunately, like, unless I think Facebook thinks unless I start paying them, that they won't give my channel any more love. So I got up to like 9,000 followers, and then at some point, like, it just keeps going down. Even though it tells me that I'm getting more followers, like, it will not let me pass this threshold, and the content pretty much gets buried. I don't think it gets out very wide. But again, like, while I'm still allowed on these platforms, I want to utilize them and live stream to them. So there you go. Now, Grand Theft World episode 1, 2, and 3 are available on YouTube over here. The main place to get them would be on the website. So I did create this particular YouTube channel to keep kind of whack-a-mole up for now. We'll keep up our videos on YouTube. The main embed that we use is more on library here. So library would be the place I would think is the best to go follow if you want to see like the shows on a social media platform. You could see we're over here on library, and then if you go to actually the site, if we click into this post and click the site itself, you can go and see the web page and the embed. And then the same thing over here. We're on all these different platforms that you can go follow on. If you like, RSS for Podcast Addict or something like that, you can download the library video, you can download the audio, and you can watch it here. Should never go away from there. But, we're still going to be out there on YouTube for now. We were on Richard Grove's channel, but after number 3 got taken down off my channel, we don't want to risk putting it up on his. So for now, we might do some previews on that channel and some things that are going on. So I'll just give you a little preview now of Grand Theft World podcast. Now on the show, Grand Theft World, what we're talking about is the ongoing corruption and cabal that has been basically aiming to start the New World Order government and is implementing that now. But also just, the weekly updates of things that have been going on. And I'm sorry, I'm just reading a chat here and somebody's like, the COVID-19 virus doesn't exist. And I'm like, oh my God, you can't say that. Didn't you just hear what I was just saying? Let me go back and read that again. No, I'm just kidding. Where was I at? So the Grand Theft World, it's a roundtable, but it's mainly hosted by Richard Grove, and I help produce the show and stream it live and then get it edited and published up there with all the resources and show notes and syndicated out on all those networks we were just talking about. But the main content will be about, like the Anglo-American establishment, if you're familiar with Richard Grove's work at all, going back to the Peace Revolution podcast, talking about the recontextualization of history, but we can mix it in with modern events and provide context to some of the stuff that's going on now, like the Great Reset, which a lot of people are just hearing about like right now, or the Fourth Industrial Revolution. And these are things that have been being discussed for a long time. The World Economic Forum did not just pop up out of nowhere and start talking about these things. So we talk about a lot of that stuff on the Grand Theft World podcast. And just covering the weekly news from an alternative standpoint that people can then catch up on. And maybe they're not going to go and watch every little thing that happens during the week, but they could then watch the Grand Theft World podcast and hopefully have a better idea. We're going to make it easily accessible. Some of the things get buried in news feeds. Some of the things disappear completely. we've already had several occasions of where we're sharing and archiving a piece of content in the show that then even like Monday, Tuesday, it's already being taken off of places where people would normally see it. And that's something that I'm trying to encourage here on this show, is to go and look at some of these alternative platforms and, start getting used to using libraries, start getting used to using something like Twitch or Float even to go watch a live stream, start getting used to that versus just being stuck on YouTube and what's going on there. I'll tell you from someone who's been watching alternative information and consuming, certain types of things that people don't really commonly discuss on YouTube for a while now, that it's changed quite a bit, and that if you're coming in late or you're not really into that kind of information, like, it is being pruned, it is being taken away from that platform. And so I'm like really bored watching YouTube now. I'm like, this is really boring, half of the stuff I normally would want to watch isn't even on here anymore, and noticing that. But I'm thinking, some people that aren't as aware of certain things going on might not even notice, and they're in kind of that limited hangout thinking they're getting good information, but really there has been a massive purge, and there's a lot of algorithms working against certain information. What if I do say something that contradicts the WHO and things like that? I mean, Fauci at one point earlier this year was telling us not to wear masks and that masks are a waste of time and really not going to do anything. And then you could go find, where he's then promoting the masks. Or at that time, what if I was to promote what he was saying and then that contradicts what the WHO says about masks? Or what about like lockdowns? And, what if Fauci and even Bill Gates is promoting lockdowns until we get a vaccine, and then I turn around at the WHO and they're saying don't do lockdowns, lockdowns are unhealthy, lockdowns are killing people, lockdowns are causing a weaker immune system. So like what if I do share these contradictions that I'm finding right out in what these official news or official scientists that we're supposed to be listening to, the experts that we're supposed to be listening to, and I don't think Bill Gates is any doctor or a scientist, so I'm not sure exactly what to do there. But he does wear beautiful sweater vests and sweaters with collars and things, and he looks really like someone I should just trust, so maybe I should just trust what Bill Gates says and not question it, and just listen to what the CDC says and the WHO, even if they're contradicting themselves. Like, I should just live in contradiction then, is basically what YouTube's telling me to do. Don't talk about the contradictions, don't bring them up, just shut up, do what you're told. If you try to live stream this information out, we're going to take your channel down, and that's how it's going to go. So rather than go into that, let's go into a little clip from Grand Theft World. Let's see, I had one pulled up here today, or at least I thought I did. Maybe I'll have to skim to something really quick. What did I have pulled up? I had something pulled up to share. It looks like it may have refreshed, so we'll just go pull it up real quick and then give it a share. I'll do it live. It must be back here. Here we go. I found that. Now let's go to that.
What truth you're being purveyed by those people. I put truth like that, quotes on it, because they're purveying propaganda and psychological warfare for the purpose of aggrandizing your fear, your natural fear that keeps you alive and keeps you with freedom. They are amplifying it and grabbing you like a couple of handles, and they're having their way with people, shaking them around with fear. Doesn't need to go on. So rolling out of that clip, he had I laughed because I thought you maybe were going to play the part that I played for Lisa earlier today, Tyler, when he goes off. He has some parrhesia in that video. And if you want to hear some more adult language than you probably heard all day, get through the rest of that video about the Great Reset. By the way, that video that he's reviewing, that's not a new Great Reset video. That's from like June or July. That's like from early in the summer that they already had that all figured out. While you guys were being like told it's going to be 2 weeks and you're out. There was big plans of movement. And guess what? All those big players that stepped back and closed everything down early, do you think they're in on the Great Reset or do you think they're out on it? You think the people who got shut down, the non-essential people, all those other businesses that weren't Amazon or one of the big places that got favored, do you think they're in the World Economic Forum? If you want to see the companies that exist in the future, you want some stock picks right now? You want to know who exists in the future and under their game as they're playing it? If you're not in the World Economic Forum, you might not be in on the plan of people and corporations that survive that phase, right? That's their protected in the know group, the companies in the World Economic Forum, right? And the people that they have speak at these sort of things. Has Klaus Schwab ever talked to Joe Biden, for instance? Do they have any connection? Do they have any past? Because he's coming into power over here, and Klaus seems to be in power over there. He's not elected. So there may be two guys that aren't elected in power. I don't know. Bill Gates. There's three guys that aren't elected in power. What do you got there, Lawrence? You found the video?
Yeah, I think this is the video you were talking about. World Economic Forum. It was taken off Twitter. 8 predictions for the world in 2030. You'll own nothing and you'll be happy.
Oh yeah.
Hey, you might get to go to Mars.
They just canceled going to the moon. I don't think so.
No way. They canceled that again.
COVID. Yeah, people did not like, but they did comment and share on that.
Those audio issues there, folks, but there you can get an idea of how that kind of format goes. We got Lawrence pulling the fact checking, pulling up he's actually the Ministry of Truth. He's part of that department, is what we call him on the show. I don't even need these headphones. Sometimes it just feels better to have them on. Well, that way I can hear if there's any like browser coming in, like there was on that clip. Suddenly, like something does decide to load, and then suddenly it's too loud. Or it's playing back into the thing. But yeah, so just to go into another little glimpse of what we'll be talking about tonight on the Grand Theft World show, I have a couple things pulled up here now. The Fourth Industrial Revolution. I'm going to put my headphones back on. The Fourth Industrial Revolution, something not new. You could see here in this video in particular that it's been being talked about for quite some time. This was posted on the World Economic Forum site in 2015. And I think this is pretty quiet. I can just play through this. This is the Fourth Industrial Revolution will bring change at a speed and scale and force unlike anything we've experienced before. It will affect the very essence of our human experience. So in this video, they're being a lot more vague than in the one Lawrence was showing in Grand Theft World. The First Industrial Revolution brought... Oh, I read it too slow. The Second Industrial Revolution brought mass production through assembly lines and electrification. About 1970s, the Third Industrial Revolution brought mainframe computers, personal computing, and the internet. What's the Fourth Industrial Revolution? The interplay between fields like nanotechnology and brain research. So basically, like, human being is what they're projecting is the Fourth Industrial Revolution. It'll spread like wildfire. I mean, and that's true. (2015). So some people are not just hearing about this stuff now, but they've been talking about it for quite some time. It's in their plans. I mean, they are going to microchip you, and they're telling you all about it, and you're going to love it. Don't worry about it. Here's that video. You can actually find it on YouTube. Here, I'll just put this in the show notes. The one that Lawrence had up that apparently has it's had a bit of censorship there, mate. It's had a big bit of problem with the Ministry of Truth. The WHO contradicting itself here. Here, let's watch this while we're over here. This is a little preview of what you'll see coming up tonight in the Grand Theft World podcast, and what I was talking about. This gentleman, David Nabarro, was on 60 Minutes, and they had this round table from the World Health Organization. It's probably worth watching this whole thing and pulling the little golden nuggets out of here. But let's just watch a little bit of this clip and see what he has to say here about the lockdown measures and some of the things that have been going on more recently in the U.S. about enhancing, and not in just the U.S. but all around the world, furthering the lockdown measures. Let's hear what he has to say about lockdowns.
We sometimes balk at the lockdown because it's yet another lockdown. We thought we'd all be over by September, October. It also, as I said, it gets very complicated and so on. But these are quite narrow personal inconveniences, and of course they can have economic impacts overall too. But we had Professor Sunetra Gupta from Oxford University on, and she was implying, and I'm interested in you because you have a global mandate, a global view, was that a problem we don't think about in lockdowns is that they're very nationalistic. That if we lock down our economy, then it hits our economy. But it also means we are not buying stuff, we're not trading with weaker economies, we are not just destroying our own jobs, we're destroying the jobs of all those that in the poorer parts of the world that export to us. That seemed to me to be a reasonable point.
Really important point by Professor Gupta. I want to say it again. We in the World Health Organization do not advocate lockdowns as a primary means of control of this virus. The only time we believe a lockdown is justified is to buy you time to reorganize, regroup, rebalance your resources, protect your health workers who are exhausted. But by and large, we'd rather not do it. Just look at what's happened to the tourism industry, for example, in the Caribbean or in the Pacific, because people aren't taking their holidays. Look what's happened to smallholder farmers all over the world because their markets have got dented. Look what's happening to poverty levels. It seems that we may well have a doubling of world poverty by next year. We may well have at least a doubling of child malnutrition because children are not getting meals at school and their parents in poor families are not able to afford it. This is a terrible, ghastly global catastrophe, actually. And so we really do appeal to all world leaders. Stop using lockdown as your primary control method. Develop better systems for doing it. Work together and learn from each other. But remember, lockdowns just have one consequence that you must never, ever belittle, and that is making poor people an awful lot poorer.
Indeed, and a rise in world poverty after years and years in which world poverty was falling and falling. And we've reversed almost a decade of progress going back in 9 months. Professor, thank you for being with us. Don't go away because I'm sure a lot of people want to ask some questions. I'm going to move back to dear old Blighty where
Okay, so you get an idea there of what they were talking about. And essentially, you can find a lot of information like that out there. But then you can go and find your local governor saying that, if you don't lock down, then ABCD consequence, or they're really getting serious about curfews and lockdowns. But as he's saying there, when the first world is locking down, the third world is starving. I mean, if you think about our economy getting a little bit weaker, imagine people living off of already half a rice bowl a day or a bowl of rice a day, suddenly now not being able to afford that or get that food. They're dead. That's death for them. That's a death sentence for them. So us having, like Michael Tessarion was talking about there, like, oh, you know, your grandma died, or oh, your friend died, or oh, your even someone in your family died of COVID-19, and it's so bad. Like, imagine famine plus this stuff that's going on. Imagine, you know, already being completely malnutritioned, everybody around you, and then the first world stops exporting certain goods because we had to lock down, and we couldn't, you know, find a way to get rice to ABCD place, or we couldn't find a way to continue to export this particular set of dairy or animal products because, you know, the whole world had to lock down. That's kind of what he's alluding to here in lesser words when he's saying, like, oh, you know, it causes poverty. Well, it causes death. It's killing people, basically. Like, these policies are culling the masses, and especially the people that are less fortunate in the world. And so just keep that in mind when you're, you know, thinking about making other people feel guilty, or, you know, thanks a lot, YouTube, for banning our information. That we're really just sharing information from these sorts of sources and then pointing out, like, the juxtaposition and the contradictions between the two. That was all from the World Health Organization and the World Economic Forum. So organizations that are right now being touted as the experts that we should just listen to. What if we just share information from them? Will YouTube take our information down then, or will Facebook take this down now that I'm streaming out to Facebook? Yeah, I'll share those articles. You can also see there's more to it from MSN.com. WHO officially urges world health leaders to stop using lockdowns as primary virus control measure. The WHO officially urges world leaders to stop using. So this is just another method to that, or angle at that. So I'll share these along with that video into the show notes so you can find those and follow along. Got a few things. The Architects of Control from the intro. We'll share that if we can find it. That's work from Michael Tessarion and, like, Red Ice Creations, or the people over there at I forget his name, the dude that does Red Ice Radio. It's something Swedish or German or something like that. The types of brain farts that we have live. And then you can hear my children, like, screaming ferociously in the background. I live with two velociraptors that scream at the top of their lungs. I have a little noise gate on this mic, but I doubt that it's blocking that out. Let's see. I wasn't going to go very long today. I just wanted to cover a few things, like that preview of what's going to be coming up tonight in the Grand Theft World podcast. So you could see here that the tabs that I have open to share tonight are vast. We got quite a bit, and I'm not even done. I'll do a few more hours of show prep tonight before the show starts. We'll sync up, and then we'll get that started. So here's some of the stuff that you're going to see. What is the Fourth Industrial Revolution? Maybe a little Corbett and Quinones. Maybe some stuff from Jimmy Dore and how he thinks Andrew Cuomo's a hypocrite. We'll go into some of the policies that Cuomo dictated that went south. See a little bit of Corbett's reporting on that specific clip that I just shared with you and the sources that he's linked to that. More problems with lockdowns and things like that. We'll see what Whitney Webb has to say. We'll get a little bit more information from the World Economic Forum on how the world is working towards a coronavirus vaccine, and a little bit more from your daddy Klaus. And we'll then talk more about the discoveries from the SARS-CoV-2 origin with pangolin and bat virus from Chris Martinson over at peakprosperity.com. Get some insight from Timcast, some back to Whitney Webb. So I don't want to give the whole show away, but I did just give quite a bit of the preview of what we'll be talking about tonight. And then another thing I want people to be aware of is finally here, or a couple more things, and then I'm going to close out this show. So in the University of Reason, where the autonomy course is housed. You can find out more about that at getautonomy.info, or reach out to me about that, or find the link in the show notes. We've created a Grand Theft World course, and this is mainly to control access to our community and Discord server. But within this course, you're going to get all the Grand Theft World episodes, as well as access to our town hall events that occur on a weekly basis from the Grand Theft World. It's been going on all year since the beginning of the kind of the COVID stuff here in the United States. But you could also get the app for Kajabi, and then you'll have easy download access to the video, easy download access to the audio, to the show notes and references and links. But in addition to all that, you can continue on the conversation over at the Grand Theft World Discord server, which by joining the Kajabi course, the main feature and benefit of that is having access to this community. So this community has areas where people can share updates and things that have been going on recently. There's an advanced community for advanced access for people to actually participate in the production of the show and the planning for the show. And then there's other places, like a whole section on COVID, and somebody had asked about, like, hey, is there a place I can safely talk about masks over in the autonomy server? And I was like, yeah, hop on over to Grand Theft World and talk about it in the mask debate room. In fact, there she is. I don't want to like leave it there so you can read what she's saying, because that's, you know, this is a private community where we try to, you know, it's not like aired out to the public where we can let everybody see what we're doing. So I did the Do It Live podcast, shared it in here just to get people more exposure to that. And by the way, yesterday we did Do It Live, actually live. It was a big victory for the Do It Live podcast. Joshua Hale is the main host for the Do It Live podcast, but it's also Autonomy student and graduate ran show that we call it Do It Live because that's kind of a mantra in autonomy, is like this mentality of just getting it done, just doing it live, just fail forward kind of thing. Sometimes you make mistakes, sometimes you just need to get started, and sometimes that means doing it live. Like when you're not prepared, you just, you know, parrhesia off the top of your head. And that's kind of how this live stream went. Like I was thinking about it last week, and then I remembered, like, hey, we should just do it live. That way there's no post-production. And we're at a point where we can do that now. Like Joshua is really good. We got everything lined up. So we did it live. Joshua gave his own little preview of the Grand Theft World. As you can see, there's lots of clips shared. I got to participate as well as stream the show out. So yeah, Do It Live podcast over at Autonomy Students and Graduates YouTube channel. Go check it out. That channel has been growing quite a bit. It is on the YouTube, and which in the fourth industrial revolution, we will not be allowing you to use the YouTube to contradict our narrative, because the implant will know before you've even begun speaking that you will have something contradictory to say to the Klaus, to the Father Klaus, who will not allow such contradictory information to be perceived by others. Oh. Do it live. I just spilled coffee right on my keyboard. It's funny. All good. That's why I'm being silly, because sometimes you just gotta lighten it up a little bit, you know what I mean? Anyways, I think for today, I'm gonna get over to the Sunday Q&A. It's all I really wanted to cover. Just kind of keeping you updated on what I've been up to and what we've been doing over here at tylerbloyer.com. So next couple weeks coming up, we'll have more Grand Theft World. We'll have more tylerbloyer.com live streams. We'll hopefully get our YouTube channel back. Not that I really give a shit about YouTube, but you know, we'll see if that comes back and I can live stream to that. We have all these other platforms that I need to integrate to the site and make people aware that we're there, and we'll kind of duplicate that workflow over on Grand Theft World. GrandTheftWorld.com, you can find this week's news aggregated all on the front page of stuff that's been going on from a more open-minded, more and more egalitarian, more political perspective. No, not any of that at all. I mean, it's just the news as it should be. And besides that, it's actually the tagline for GrandTheftWorld.com is where freedom comes together. because it's all like the freedom-oriented, freedom-minded people coming together in one place, and we will have, you know, more updates and things like that coming down the pike in the future, and more awesome content from TylerBloyer.com. For today, I'm just looking through my notes to make sure there's nothing else that I wanted to touch on. And I think that's it. I think that's a good update show. Kept it under an hour or so. And I'll get off and go do the things that I need to do today. And one of those is just participate in the Autonomy Q&A. And then later tonight, we'll do Grand Theft World live at 9 p.m. Eastern. You can catch it live at grandtheftworld.com/live. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Take care. Have a good one. We'll talk to you later.